Hello everybody, this is Mr. Lerma with AP Biology video number 1. It is ecology, population dynamics with a focus on response to change. Here's the cover page, Junior Lerma, my teacher Mr. Duran, AP Biology class period 3, and the date is May 17th, 2017. Okay, so the EQ. How do organisms react to different factors in their environment? So that's what we're going to be focusing on today. You saw that little picture of Kevin from Home Alone right there. His reaction to the robbers, right? Okay, so individual and population. So individuals have means to withstand changes in their environment. And so those changes are not just like Kevin experienced in Home Alone, but some of them include temperature or humidity or pH or other things like that, and we'll focus on those very soon. So in an environment, there's two types of factors. The first one is biotic factors, or all the living parts of the environment, and the second one are abiotic factors, all the physical factors or the non-living parts of the environment. So abiotic, a meaning not and bio meaning life, so not life, and bio by itself just meaning life. So in that photo down on the bottom, you could see some biotic factors are the people and the plants, the trees in the background. Some abiotic factors are the snow and let's see, what else is there? Like the rocks on the floor, there's temperature, the air. Okay, so what is tolerance? So organisms have mechanisms to withstand physical changes in their environment. One example are these goosebumps that you see, and that's a human autonomic response. The purpose is to increase our chances of survival. And so basically, through evolutionary experiences, these goosebumps raise because what they're trying to do is lift up the hairs on our body to try to grab as much heat as possible. Goosebumps happen when we're cold or sometimes out of fear, and that's why cats get bigger also when they get scared, because they're experiencing the same thing, the pilomotor reflex. Okay, so graphically, this is what tolerance looks like. It's a tolerance curve. So this just displays how tolerant an organism is to different changes in their environment, such as temperature, pH, humidity, salinity, or oxygen levels. So if we take a look closer, you see that organisms have an optimal range for every single factor that you would test. So there's an optimal range, meaning there's a certain point to where this factor will allow the organism to thrive the most. And you can see that at the center of the graph, the population of butterfly rises. And if you increase this factor, as you see on the right, it's too high and the organisms die off. Likewise, if you decrease a factor, you see to the left, it's too low and the organism still cannot live. All right, so there's 3 ways organisms can make do. The first is to acclimate. So that means that organisms adjust their tolerance to environmental factors. So an example of that is when humans and birds, that's what we're going to use for our example here, birds, when they increase elevation, their red blood cell count increases. So you see that we have a hawk right here because when they fly up high, their red blood cell count increases. And that's a means for them to deal with something called hypoxia or hypo, right? Low oxygen. So the red blood cells, as we know, carry hemoglobin. So that's a means for animals to acclimate to the environment. A good way to remember acclimate is I'll change myself to fit your needs, your meaning the environment. Okay, the second example are regulators. These are organisms that spend metabolic energy on internally regulating a physical factor. So you keep this factor within a certain range, even though the environment outside of you displays a wider range of these characteristics. So a way to remember this is I'm going to stand my ground and keep myself the way I should be, no matter what the environment wants. So it's kind of like stubbornness or like homeostasis. You're stubborn to maintain homeostasis. And that's what humans do when they go out in the cold, like that picture, that skier is still maintaining that 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit temperature despite the coldness around him. And this is an example of a negative feedback where you're maintaining homeostasis and your body's getting warmer in cold weather or getting cooler in hot weather to maintain that one single temperature. So here we see a girl shivering, and the reason why is because it's increasing that kinetic energy, right? Just as we talked about a second ago. So the third example are conformers. So conformers are organisms that their internal factor changes to match the environmental factor. For example, lizards. They go outside and they try to soak up the sun because they're going to change their internal factor to match the environmental factor. And they don't want that internal factor to get too cold, so they try to gather as much heat as they can from the sun outside. So a good way to remember this is that the body says, okay, I'll do what you tell me, environment. So this is a non-stubborn conformer. Here's the reference slide, APA format. And that's all we have for you today. Thank you so much for sticking around, and I hope you found this very helpful. Thank you.